How much autonomy do you have in your teaching? General discussion. Thinking about this a lot because my partner teacher wants us in lockstep, exactly the same. Teaching exactly the same thing, at exactly the same time, and even in the same way. I've always worked in environments or on teams where you taught the same standards and content, but had the autonomy to teach in your own style, so to speak, and a part of me is already resentful of the idea of giving up this autonomy. For context. I got near perfect evaluations all last year and my admin had zero problems with my teaching style last year, so I don't feel as though I should have to give that up unless they're the ones telling me to do so, not a coworker. How would y'all handle this, and is there a balance that can be struck to avoid disagreement? No way. That is not an effective teaching method or teacher. Being on the same pace, yes. But my style, my notes, activities and my students are different than everyone else's. Always a great thing to collaborate to discuss. I would have a conversation and explain that you understand where they are coming from but you feel that will seriously hinder the learning of our students. I will gladly pace with you so we are just about lockstep that way in. The funny thing is, the admin are so excited to have them because they're young and hip and admin think they're gonna be such a good teacher. But like they want access to all my curriculum, want to plan 5 months out, and be exactly the same in everything. And it just won't work like that for me. I have a great deal of autonomy and while all my grade level colleagues teach the same material, we all do it different ways, with some focusing more on certain parts than others. As long as the standards are hit and the knowledge is gained. It's a fool's game to try to get everything exactly the same. The cynical part of me thinks that your partner teacher is either trying to get you to do all the planning, or doesn't want to give up control to someone else. That's the only reason I can think of to be so rigid. Unless it's a grade level wide goal. They're new but they also want a department chair, so the cynical part of me thinks they're trying to even any perceived ground between us. It is definitely not an expectation that has been communicated from admin. Our district wants this to be how it's done across the district. They have literally said they want a kid to be able to walk out of one school and into another the next day and pick up at exactly the same point. The interesting part is that the best teachers with the highest test scores or with the toughest to teach students do not follow the script. I think it's great for beginner teachers who may want or need that level of structure to get their bearings and focus on classroom management. But it shouldn't be expected of everyone. Not only is it not necessary but it doesn't take into account best practices like reteaching when kids just don't get it the first way/time. I have one content partner. She and I get along great. She's much more type B and I'm more type A. I'm more into the planning, but she helps so much with digging up resources and making copies and finding primary sources for us to use. She always says she's glad she has me keeping the curriculum moving and I appreciate that she's always on top of getting our resources ready daily. We've worked together for 3 years now and have our curriculum pretty well mapped and aligned to our standards. We usually do the same thing or activity on the same day. Sometimes if we have a single set of a resource we flip-flop days so both of us can use it. There's occasionally some deviation but not much. However, we teach in our own style and of course we each have our own favorite topics we tend to hit harder than the other. Personally, I love our partnership and we're both proud that all students in the grade have access to the same materials and instruction, even if our style varies. This past year we've been able to go a step further and really focus on differentiation and remediation. For example, in our end of the unit essay prep week, we were able to split our classes and one of us took the struggling writers for a workshop while the other took the advanced kids for peer reviews. It was cool and the kids noticed and appreciated the targeted support. However, for this type of thing to work it really must be a partnership. It cannot be dictated on one side. Everyone deserves to bring something to the table and have their ideas heard. If you're working with a demanding or toxic partner it will not be fun or successful. I'm currently at a school where I am the only teacher for a given subject so I have a lot of freedom. I've also been teaching for over 20 years and my kids place at the district and state level in my subjects and came very highly recommended from my previous school. I had the job on walking in but they took me on a historic tour to sell the place. Honestly it sells itself. Back when I taught at my previous school we had vertical and horizontal alignment meetings to be sure we were aligned. We just had to teach the same topic/content but, given the nature of the subject, each teacher brought their own personal style and added content knowledge. You should be teaching the same material to the same standards but I guarantee my teaching is absolutely my own. Oh, Lord, I hate the whole lockstep thing. It's especially bad in elementary schools. There were 5 kindergarten teachers on my team. And our administrator expected us not only to teach the exact same thing, but also to do it at the exact same time. She would come by our room to see if we were all in step with one another. Ridiculous. That year I had a child with type 1 diabetes, 3 kids on the spectrum. And 3 elopers. So when one of my kids runs out of my room, am I supposed to just ignore it, to keep on pace? Of course not. Weaker principles like said consistency I think because it gives them a better handle on things if everything is the same within each grade level. And because of COVID, parents became more aware of what was going on in the classroom, than comparing notes with other parents. As educators, we are supposed to meet each child's individual needs using a variety of styles, content, and platforms. Teams are stronger because of these varied strengths. A foolish consistency is the hobgoblin of little minds. Ralph Waldo Emerson. I love that quote. Thank you for sharing it. I think this is overall depends on your personal teaching style. This past year I had the best team. We planned together, prepped together, and came up with interventions together. It genuinely made my life easier while also making me a better teacher. But, it was a true collaboration and we all supported the team. With that said, all of were still very different in our daily and classroom routines. There were several times that one of us would have to slow down and reteach or just teach our week in a completely different order. Observations, sub-days, specials, etc. can all change the order of your week. If you are going to work on this level of collaboration, you need to all be okay agreeing to do your own what's best for just your class at times. Like you said, sometimes your data is showing needs in different places. I think supporting a new teammate and sharing plans and resources would be a very kind thing to do as a teammate, but that doesn't mean changing your teaching style. I don't see anyone else saying this. But there is a lot of variety about what people actually mean when they say lockstep. You would think everyone would have the same definition of that word, but they don't. For some teachers, lockstep is following a pre-made scripted lesson exactly the same. For others, lockstep means committing to using the same resources, prompts, graphic organizers, teaching points in the same order/day. But then teachers do have autonomy to do something digitally or put kids in groups, edit their PowerPoints, add in a few more language supports if you see a need, etc. Then I've met teachers who freak out about lockstep when the only requirement is graded work being the same. I think it's worth a deeper conversation about this. Because even what you said in the first paragraph to me isn't clear about where this teacher actually stands. Teaching the same thing, a standard, at exactly the same time, let's start this on Monday, and even in the same way, we have a great video clip and graphic organizer we can use, could honestly still have autonomy built into it. But you won't know until you continue to talk about it. Ask questions. And get to the bottom of why they are suggesting this. It'll make it much easier to negotiate something you're comfortable with. I've been really lucky to work with a great team that plans well together. We generally plan out units including lessons that we all use, obviously tweaks in delivery are individual, but the assignment is the same. We get off pace at times, but usually end a unit within a couple days of each other. This only works because we have similar styles and legitimately listen to input and are open to feedback. At times we've all been the one going, if everyone else is on board, I'll try. But I don't know. And we've all been on the end of others not liking our ideas or massively reworking them, usually for the better. There are also a couple people in my department that consistently go rogue. We set teaching lines so people who like to collaborate teach the same grade levels and the line wolves teach the other grades. Everyone is happy with it. ETA, we also get 60 to 90 minutes of planning time built into our schedule each week. 60 minutes is strictly protected by our contract, the rest depends on if admin thinks the staff meeting can be an email or not. Edit 2, we have almost complete control over our content. For years we had admin that believed in our professionalism and now we have both past precedent and, sadly, a principal who is so hands-off they can be out of the building and people don't notice. Our AP, on the other hand, is keeping the place together via sheer strength of will.